Hello and welcome. My name is Mark Horseman, data evangelist with DATAVERSITY. We would like to thank you for joining the latest installment of this monthly DATAVERSITY webinar series, Analytics Architecture with William McKnight. Today, William will be discussing the ROI of AI is usually there. Let's run the numbers. Just a couple of points to get us started. Due to the large number of people that attend these sessions, you will be muted during the webinar. For questions, we will be collecting them by the Q&A section. If you would like to chat with us or chat with each other, we certainly encourage you to do so. And just to note, the Zoom chat defaults to send to just the panelists, but you may absolutely switch that to network with everyone. To open the Q&A and chat sections, you'll find the icons for those features in the bottom middle of your screen. As always, we will send a follow-up email within a couple of business days containing links to the slides, a recording of this session, and any additional information requested throughout the webinar. Now, let me introduce to you our speaker for this series, William McKnight. William has advised many of the world's best-known organizations. His strategies form the information management plan for leading companies in numerous industries. He is a prolific author and popular keynote speaker and trainer. He has performed dozens of benchmarks on leading database, data lake, streaming, and data integration products. William is the #1 global influencer in data warehousing and master data management, and he leads McKnight Consulting Group, which I believe has thrice now placed on the Incorporated 5,000 list. And with that, I will pass the floor to William to get today's webinar started. Hello and welcome, my friend.
Hello, Mark and everybody. Welcome aboard. I'm excited to bring this topic to you because it's a big question out there, and it's seldom addressed appropriately, in my opinion. So I'm going to try to help out with this important topic of where does the ROI come from for AI, and how do we show it so that we can get our projects justified, and so that we can actually tune those projects towards the bottom line success of the organization, which ultimately I find is very frequently needed. You may be coming to this presentation trying to formulate some AI in your organization, which is great, probably required. But at the end of the day, you might be asked about, well, where's the ROI in that? As a matter of fact, I find that in the past couple of years, when things have been getting a little bit tighter than they used to be in terms of budget, that this is more and more being requested. I know it is of us. And so let me get into this by saying that this is not an ROI strategy presentation. This is not, this is not an AI strategy presentation, is what I should say. How do we build our AI so that it has bottom line success of the organization? We're not getting into the nuts and bolts of the build out. I have addressed some of that in a prior conversation, and I will put a tiny URL up here in a second in case you wanted to go check out my thoughts on getting, building a successful AI project. However, when the topic of ROI of AI is brought up, I am frequently disappointed in the results, whether I'm researching an article, looking at a presentation. I literally looked at a presentation called something like the ROI of AI, and it didn't talk about ROI at all. It talked about the success. How do you have success with AI? Not how do you show the ROI of it? Okay, so most come from the point of view that the project is already justified and ROI is just euphemistic for success. Not today. I put numbers in the title of this presentation for a reason. There's numbers going in and numbers coming out of these projects, and frequently, like I said, these are going to be required. So let me help you get there. Now, I'm the ROI guy. ROI on data warehousing, ROI on master data management, now ROI on artificial intelligence. I've been told to knock it off. Knock it off. These projects, they just want to have success and have people feeling good about it. Well, I say no to that. That's not been my experience, and that's not really very helpful. So pure technologists out there, maybe even organizations that are not struggling, that are pushing forward with the pedal to the metal, don't care about the numbers, those organizations are not going to care as much about these numbers. But the rest of us, probably like 80% of enterprises, are going to. And they do deal in ROI at some level. So the hard and valuable part of ROI is figuring out what the users need and how to give it to them. So some of that will come out today. First, there's the tiny URL for me talking about AI strategy and building out a great AI project as best as I could. Okay, so we're marching along through these topics. We're already to August. I don't know where the year has gone. It's been that kind of a year, but I hope you're having a great summer out there. And I am proud to say that this series is being renewed for next year as well. So I'll be with you next year. Be sure to come back on the second Thursday of every month. And that will be the 8th year of this series. So there we go. All right. So here's a bunch of logos that we're associated with, by the way, as an organization. So we have implemented or benchmarked or done something technically with these tools and more. So just so you know where we're coming from the data space. I'm coming from the data space. I've spent my whole career in data, and I've seen a lot of changes. Of course, AI is the latest thing to blow up for us, and I definitely consider AI part of the data maturity spectrum. Not only do you have to have a lot of pure data maturity to do well at AI, AI is very largely about its data. So all of us in data, we should be right there in the AI conversations. AI in the last 12 months. What has happened in the past 12 months? Well, agentic AI has taken over, and that does create some efficiencies around the investment part of the ROI. So I'll talk about that a little bit. Enhanced intelligence and reasoning capabilities. AI models are becoming more intelligent with improved performance on standardized tests like the bar exam and the US medical licensing exam. Reasoning capabilities are being fine-tuned, allowing the models to deliver actionable insights with greater accuracy. Multimodality. All sorts of models now are being incorporated into AI. Industry-specific applications. A lot of that is coming with agentic AI. Increased transparency, probably not enough, but there has been a lot of increased transparency so that we are learning more about what's going on, what is it trying to do, and it's becoming more explainable, allowing for better detection of errors and bias as well. And there's been some hardware innovation with specialized chips and increased computing power, now enabling faster and more versatile AI models. However, the categories of implementation haven't changed much. There's been, well, let me get to that. The next slide, I have the major categories of implementation and use cases. Of course, there are many more. And I'm putting this out there for you as the carrot, okay? This is what we're striving towards. Drug discovery, financial research, automated customer service. See, it's kind of all over the board. And no matter what industry that you are in, there are some major categories within your business that is being addressed by AI broadly. And not only should you be there, you should be everywhere that AI can provide return on investment. And hopefully today, I will open up a few eyes, maybe some ideas for you as you go about that journey. Now, a couple months ago in this series, I gave a presentation. It was called something like AI use cases for the enterprise in 2025. Now, I'm not going to do that presentation again for you, but these are the highlights of that presentation. And it's kind of a breakdown of the prior slide, but we had drug discovery examples. I think I had about 30, 35 examples from industry using AI. And occasionally, like in the case of Zurich Insurance on here, they mentioned a number. 20% increase in customer engagement, 80% resolution rate for policy inquiries, and a 4 times return on investment within 1 year. And I bet you behind most of the stories that I shared, there was an ROI story there somewhere. And as a matter of fact, I know this is true for the ones that we worked on and the ones that we were closer to than others. There's an ROI story there. AI transforming industries. It's accelerating discovery, improving accuracy, and streamlining data analysis in all these fields. So we might come across AI most easily through chatbots, right? Chatbots, that's kind of number one right now in terms of what everybody is building at the least. Virtual assistants, okay. These are all boosting engagement and conversion rates, while predictive maintenance and manufacturing is optimizing asset performance and reducing downtime. So companies like, we see some here, Atomize, Moderna, Bloomberg, and Zurich Insurance. They're leveraging AI to drive innovation, efficiency, and sustainability, achieving significant benefits such as increased customer engagement and ROI. So I want to help you bring ROI to your company. I want to help you get into these use cases wherever you are. Here's some more. It's enhancing supply chain and inventory management by predicting demand, optimizing inventory, and streamlining logistics. And in healthcare, AI solutions are improving patient care, diagnosis, and treatment by assisting with tasks like triage, X-ray analysis, and chart review. Additionally, AI is also being used in cybersecurity to detect and respond to threats in real time, and in various other applications, including content creation and management, to drive innovation and efficiency. So a bunch of use cases I shared then, Netflix, Uber, and then some of the more ones that we might be in, like healthcare, telecommunications, supply chain, and so forth. Now, AI is also being used in manufacturing to optimize production, predict equipment failures, and streamline operations, as seen in examples like dark factories. Dark factories are factories where there's minimal human energy going on inside of that factory. And these are being built today. Predictive maintenance as well. In finance, AI systems are crucial for detecting and preventing fraudulent activity. So we'll come back to this a little bit later. But these are companies like JP Morgan Chase and Entrust that are leveraging AI for security and identity verification. AI is also being used to create personalized marketing experiences with companies like Spotify and Starbucks, using machine learning to analyze customer behavior and preferences, enabling targeted promotions and recommendations. So it looks like I put the big circle right over my content. I shouldn't have done that, but anyway, for the whole presentation, and I believe this converts to YouTube, you can go to tinycc/McKnight.ai. You can see that presentation. So if you've come to learn about what are the success stories, the so-called success stories of AI, that might be a better presentation for you, because today we're going to get into some numbers. And we are going to look at showing ROI. But the difficulty of AI strategy in showing ROI is choking IT spend. IT spend is flat this year, again. And as I probe on the reasons for this, as I ask enterprises, fellow analysts, consultants, investors, why is this? The number one answer I get is we're all trying to figure out what to do with AI. So we're kind of in a stalemate now with our budgets, because we know we've got to do AI, but we haven't figured it out yet. We haven't figured out what we're going to do with AI. And part of the reason there is because we don't have a great model, framework, if you will, for putting the ROI in there. If the ROI were evident, we would do those projects for the most part. A company would do a project if it saw great positive ROI. Now, I'm going to give you the framework, but you certainly have to target the framework towards something that is bottom line great for your company, okay? And I just gave you several examples of what others have found to be bottom line great for their companies. So you got to put the two together, right? Technology companies report results flat or behind plan with economic volatility and the complexity of defining an AI strategy in a rapidly evolving market driving slower spend. The majority of companies have yet to build out a coherent AI strategy. Maybe you have, but few have. And the foundation behind this is your data estate. It's your data foundation. It's your data architecture. It's having clean, performant, all that good stuff around your data. And that's the number one impediment to success in AI today. AI investment is, I would describe it as limited and cautious, with many dipping their toes in to find value that justifies the cost. Maybe that's you. But given this characterization of AI investment being limited and cautious, when the dam breaks open and we start to apply frameworks around ROI to AI, and we start to find many, many things within our enterprises that we can prove ROI on, I think that dam is going to break open, and we're going to see a lot more investment in AI in the coming years. So let's get ready for that. With return on investment foundation. Now, this section is going to apply to return on investment no matter where it's applied within the enterprise. I'll lean into AI, of course, but we'll come back to AI. I have a couple of great examples for you of applying this return on investment to those AI projects. So you might be saying, but I'm not being asked to do ROI. I say do it anyway. You don't have to publish it. You don't have to share it widely. You don't have to talk about your numbers, maybe just within your team. But anyway, because it might be asked for down the road. And I have seen that when it's asked for after, when you're coming to the final table here where you're going to sign off on the project, right? And then you're going to start working on this project tomorrow, or so you think. And then an executive will say, what's the ROI on this again? And the time to not have an answer and to be sort of hemming and hawing about how great it's going to be, and we just got to do it, and it's strategic and all that good stuff. There's a time for that. Get to that, but that's not the great answer to the question. The answer to that question is numbers. Now, what I'm going to do a little bit later is I've picked on two of the case study, the use cases that I talked about before, and I've done extensive work on ROI in their area, not on those projects. I want to repeat that, not on those projects. I am guessing about those projects, and there's a reason I'm guessing about it, and I'm not bringing you real ROI. It's because nobody wants me to talk about the ROI the models that I built for their company. So I've homogenized it, and it is ballpark correct to my experience. So I'm going to give you a couple of ROI examples. But first, I want to acknowledge the strategic. I just think you have to figure out, is this project that I'm trying to justify, or maybe that I'm working on already and might be on shaky legs, is it strategic, or is it ROI? In my experience, it's one or the other. So figure it out. What are you working on today? Just think about that for a few seconds. Is it strategic? Is it to gain a competitive advantage, to increase market share? Is it any of these things? Just for the sake of that. Okay, maybe that's all you have to do, is make sure you do that thing. You increase customer loyalty. You increase efficiency. But behind all of these things, eventually, at least, there are numbers. There is ROI. And in my experience, I would say about 60, 70% of projects are ROI projects in 2025. So in order to get there, we need to divide and conquer. We need to make sure that we are putting a ring fence around the scope of work that we intend to deliver return on investment to the company. And you've got to do that well. And this means your data that's going to be involved. This means data integration. This means the data quality, all that stuff. And of course, the applications and all the people that are involved. And then we have to figure out how is that driving to the bottom line? Because when you do ROI, when you really do ROI, you've got to break it down to cash flow. Once you break it down to cash flow, then you can convert it into any number of different ROI formulas. I'll show you that in a minute. But that's kind of the hard part, right? Getting to that cash flow. Workloads, back to workloads though. Divide and conquer. Okay. Each fenced in area, you see the sheep, they might have different objectives. They might have different ROI formulas. That's okay. You can skin the cat different ways, but don't overlap, and don't assign the returns to multiple projects that have their own investments. Okay, you've got to be fair about it, right? Return on investment. You make this investment, you get this return. No gaps. And there's many ways to do this. I find a lot of companies just get into paralysis about this. They're asked for ROI, but they don't really know how to contain, if you will, I guess, the workload that they want to apply the ROI to. It's hard. It's hard because there's so much going on inside an enterprise. The world doesn't stand still for you to do an ROI. And really, at the bottom, at the end of the day, many projects overlap at least a little bit. But you've got to do something, and you've got to pick something and pick it reasonably. So what I like to do is, when I'm stuck like this, what would a reasonable person do? Because sometimes I could be unreasonable about it. So I just ask myself, what would a reasonable person do? Do that thing, at least for that moment. Ordered benefits. This is what makes it difficult. Benefits can be direct or indirect. First order benefits have a direct relationship to the bottom line. Congratulations if you're doing first order benefits. If your AI project is going to sell subscriptions to your service, and that's what it's all about, well, okay, it's the revenue from the sales. That's your return. And the investment is how much it costs to build that AI. That's great. That's easy, relatively speaking. Of course, you have to guess how many subscriptions are going to come in. That may be tricky. But the second order benefits are even trickier, right? Because they have an indirect relationship. The system is going to enable an activity that in turn provides the benefit. Okay, we're getting a little bit stretched out here. And then we get to third order benefits. We're stretched out even more because that system is going to enable an activity that allows performance of another activity, which actually provides the sale or the reduction in expenses or what have you. So this is not meant to be confusing or to make it prohibitive to do it. It still happens. It still must happen. And this is partly why I say, even if you're not being asked for ROI, do it anyway. Do it on the back of an envelope, so to speak. Okay, so you know the framework that you're dealing with. And you know if you are building a first order benefit to the company, a second order benefit, a third order benefit, a fourth order benefit. Okay, most AI projects are going to provide a second or third order benefit to let you know kind of where to think about this. Okay, the current state of justification. We're good at tasks and activities. Relatively good at it. We're kind of new to AI, so we're still breaking it in there, but I think we'll get good at that. And I think we'll also probably get good at costing out that activity, but we're not so good at that today. We're not so good at returns. We tend to be overconfident in the projects that we're building. Now, I always say, you build your project assuming it's going to be successful. Don't build your project assuming that it's not going to be successful or it won't. We're not so good at that. We're not so good at risk. We're not so good at all the 100 things that could go wrong on a project, not only in the build out, but in the acceptance factor of this project in the marketplace. There's a lot of things that could go on. There are acts of God, so to speak, that we don't take into consideration here, but there's a lot of things that, and I like to kind of know what they are. And that means I'm always going into projects knowing that it's not 100% guarantee of success because there's so much risk. There's things that I don't control that nobody controls. We're still moving forward. As far as I know, every enterprise out there is moving forward, despite the fact that there could be a calamitous event happen tomorrow. Costs, timelines, we're not so good at that yet. We're getting better at it. We know the tasks and activities in AI, but we don't really yet know quite very well how long things are going to take. They're tending to take a little bit longer than we think. Programs and projects. Now, if you've heard me before on this series, probably every other presentation, I'm talking about, are you building a program or are you building a project? It's because it's an important question. And it's probably like 50-50 out there. And there are going to be differences in terms of how you do the ROI for a program and a project. So for a project, that's where you turn things into their workloads. This is going to be, going to create standalone projects built for an application. That project's going to deliver and it's going to cost. Okay, relatively easy. A program, we're talking there about we're building out maybe something for an enterprise use, enterprise data, enterprise AI, something that will be used by many projects. As a matter of fact, the builders of AI programs may or may not be intimately involved with all of the projects that are going to use the program. This is not okay. I think we should be. If we're building the program, that helps us build it better. You should not build it blindly. Build it and they will come. Okay. Get involved with the projects that are going to use this AI, this program. The goal of the program is to enable the data component of the projects that it supports, or the AI component, if you will. So for that, we tend to look at comparative costs. If we do it a program way, it's going to cost X. If we don't do it a program way and we let everybody do their own projects and there's no consistency, nothing at a centralized level at all, it's going to cost Y. Okay, so which is less at the end of the day. But for return on investment, it's simple. Returns minus investment over investment. Okay, ROI should always be supported with a time period. If you tell me that I'm putting my money into your bank, $100, and I'm going to get back $108. No, let me pick it. $120. Okay. If that's in 1 year, I'm going to say, here it is. That sounds good. 20% return. But if it's in 10 years, that probably works out to be, I don't know, less than 1% return, something ridiculously small. That's not so good. So we should always support our ROI with a time period or it's completely meaningless. 132% return, great. How many years? 1 year, great. 10 years, not so good. ROI should be presented with assumptions and risks and be itemized. And it is used for both predicting and measuring. Predicting is the justification process before the project, before AI, before you build your AI project. Measuring is after the fact. Okay, we already built it. What did it do for us? What did it do for us? What kind of returns did it provide? How much did it cost? And then we just put it back into the formula. Okay. Now, in my experience, you tend to know after you have built it out, whether it's successful or not based upon usage, and has it woven into the fabric of the culture of the organization. And measuring, you do less than you do predicting. Predicting, you got to justify the project. Once you get over that hurdle, though, success is more or less evident. But sometimes in the budget cycle, in order to justify next year's budget, you need to measure what you did this year and prior years. So the ROI model is absolutely essential there as well. Now, this all is a skill, doing this ROI. It's an art form, which is hard to teach, and it's a skill, which I can teach, which I'm doing today. It's a skill. I've got much better at it over the years. I've had many lessons learned early on in my consulting. I've been consulting 25 years. So early on in my consulting, I learned a lot of lessons around ROI. I might as well have released an album. Maybe I could have called it. Now that's what I call Williams rejection, volume 24. I mean, you will go through that until you figure this out. And part of the challenge is tangible versus intangible returns. We technologists, okay, we tend to like everything. We tend to feel like everything like improved customer experience and satisfaction, customer loyalty, enhanced decision-making capabilities, improved operational efficiency, increased marketing effectiveness, increased risk management. Okay, on and on. We tend to think those things are great, and that's good enough. That's not good enough for ROI, though. You have to take it at least one step further till you get down to things that are tangible, things you could put a dollar sign on, like increasing in sales, efficiencies in processes, reduction in inventory, automated processing, reduction in returns, reduction in fraud, procurement savings, operational savings. Okay, you see, you can't do ROI on what we're going to call intangible. Now, I think everything could be measured and everything could be tangible, but there's a place we got to draw the line. Okay, I literally had one client a long time ago that wanted to justify some report building out of a data warehouse because everybody was printing this one report and it was costing print so much in printer ink and paper. And I just thought that was rather absurd and small to be going after, but that's what we did. So even stuff like looking at data on a screen versus printing it out probably could be justified with AI, ROI, although I don't recommend it. Obviously, AI, you're going to have bigger returns than that. Now, in order to do this all, you need to know something. You need to know your discount rate, what's your cost of money within the company, because the discount rate is going to dictate kind of the threshold in terms of where investments are made. Because if your company's already making, say, I don't know, 10% by in its inventory program, and it can do that anytime, why wouldn't it do that versus giving you money to do projects that's going to return 8% in a year? Okay. So the discount rate is what they're getting on their money. Usually the CFO or the CFO office understands that. When you see my sample and what we're getting into here, you will understand better why that's important. The duration, how far out are you going to go with your measurement? I'm going to suggest 3 years as a default if you don't know any better. Beyond that, the world's going to change, and who knows what's going to happen beyond 3 years. It's a great threshold, I think, for us to be building towards. And then what time blocks are you going to break things off into? A year? A quarter? I suggest a half year. I used to suggest a quarter, but it gets a little tedious in the calculation. In many cases, I'll still do it by quarter. So what am I doing? What does it look like? Let's do a simple sample here. Okay, let's say this project is going to save the company in total 140,000, because we're only going out 3 years. Remember that. It's not going to save us anything in year one because we're actually building it. We're going to take the whole first year and we're going to build this project. Okay. Second year, it's going to save the company $60,000. The third year, it's going to save the company $80,000. Do you see how it increases over time? Yeah, it tends to. As a matter of fact, you might be thinking, keep going, man. Go into year 4 and 5. It's going to look really good. You know, I wish I could. I wish I could. But again, you got to draw the line somewhere. And usually that's going to be drawn either for me or by me at around year 3. Okay, so we're going to save the company $140,000. What's it going to cost us? Well, infrastructure, it's going to cost us 2 things, or one thing. In infrastructure, I just sort of use that as a category for everything, all right? It's going to cost us $100,000 in year 1 because that's the year we're building it, and that's what it's going to cost. In year 2, for maintenance, 10,000, year 3, maintenance 10,000. These are small numbers, obviously. So that's going to be your overall investment. The ROI on that is in year 1, negative 100%. Ooh, that's kind of ugly. That's as bad as it gets. Negative 100%. You never got a single dime back from that investment. And that's going to be true for some number of months, hopefully not 12, but some number of months for your AI project. Obviously, right? There's going to be an investment period. But in my experience, lately, the threshold has been closing. And while I used to be granted a nice year to get to the green, now it's not going to be that long. It's going to be with AI, especially with AI agents, especially. So we're talking 6 months maximum to returning investment to the company. So think of it that way. You've got to be able to do that. You might say, yes, but William, it's going to take 9 months to build this AI project. Sharpen your pencil. Figure out how to deliver some measured level of the bottom line earlier, and then add on as you go on. Very few cases are you going to be granted that full year plus. In this case, year 2, we only got back 60,000, but the investment was 100,000. We're still in the hole. 45%, still looking pretty ugly. Year 3, okay, we finally turned that curve, went up the hockey stick, and we got to 80,000 in financial return for only 10,000 investment in that year. And when you net that all out, it's 16.67%. So on the cover page of your justification, it's going to say 16.67%. Great. Is that good? No, that's okay. Now, I want to get to some real examples here. I will mention quickly that once you get the cash flow, it's easy with Excel or any spreadsheet to come up with the ROI, which I gave you the formula for before. It's easy to come up with the break-even point when that investment turns into the green. In our case, year 3, internal rate of return. That's the discount rate at which the net present value, I'll get to that in a minute, of an investment's cash flow equals 0. The net present value is the way to figure out how much a future cash flow is worth today. How much should the organization pay for that future cash flow? If you allow this to go out 3 years, it is worth, in this case, $12,000 to the organization. That's at least a positive amount. That's like walking into the CEO's office and saying, here's $12,000. That's what that's like. Now, they might not think that's enough money to justify the just everything that goes on with a project, but you get my point. And always present the possibilities across the spectrum. None of us are Nostradamus. As a matter of fact, he got pretty much everything wrong too, but none of us are predicting the future precisely. There is a best case, there is a planned case, and there is a worst case where most everything goes wrong. So you got your optimists are going to be over here on this one side, and your pessimists, like your CFOs, are going to be over there on the other side where everything goes wrong. And what I suggest you do is present this with percentages that add up to 100. It might be this way, it might be this way, it might be this way. Again, I can't predict the future exactly, but it's going to be one of these 3. Well, somewhere in there anyway. It's going to be one of these 3, and then you could do a probability distribution, and you can show your return on investment. So let's AI, see if I had any notes there. Okay, no. Okay. AI, automated customer service ROI model. So let's develop a theoretical ROI for one of the top AI use cases out there. Automated customer service. This is kind of like a chatbot. This use case is primarily well suited for an ROI model because the sources provide some specific quantifiable benefits from real-world implementations, such as the Zurich Insurance example, which I talked about in the prior presentation, and they said they got a certain number. Okay, we're going to build to that number. By the way, this is completely theoretical. These are not Zurich numbers. These are just using numbers that came from industry. and backing into it. Theoretically, your estimated cost, now I'm only going to do 1 year to keep it simple and allow me to get through 2 examples in the time that I have. So we're going to stick to the first year. And I'm not saying that these projects are or should take a year. As a matter of fact, as I note on this slide, projects of this nature can take 5 months on average to develop, test, validate, deploy, and scale an analytical model. Yes, that's sort of an industry talking term right now, and it sort of plays out with my experience, so I'm okay with using it. However, I think that with agentic AI, as we do more of that, that 5 months is going to come down to maybe a month, 1 month. But for now, I'm going to say, okay, let's assume it's going to take 5 months, and realistically, the agents that are deployed today still take close to 5 months. So, what are the costs? AI platform and software licensing. Okay, the estimated cost there is $150,000. This is a hypothetical figure for platform and core software licenses. Now, what I'm giving you here, in addition, is all of the categories of major spend for a project of this nature. AI platform and software licensing. How about development and integration? This is where you get into some people costs. And yes, the people costs weigh heavily into these projects, maybe 50% or more for these projects. And our estimated cost here is $400,000. What's yours? I don't know. How many people? What are their salaries? What are their burden salaries? Surely you're using consultants. How much are they going to cost, etc. So development and integration, 400,000. Okay, I'm running a tally here. So we're at 550. Data preparation and governance. All models are only as good as the data they consume. Hopefully, I'm going to get back to something I said before. Your data foundation is there. AI agents, once you get into that, they want access to all your data. They want access to all data that is of quality, high performance. It's gone through governance. It's real time. Okay. When you create that foundation, your estimated costs for these projects go down because you've built data as a service to AI. But realistically today, we have to do some remediation to the architecture for just about every project. If you're building a brand new architecture, it's going to be way more than $75,000. Okay, so $75,000, we'll just say that's what the remediation is in order to make this project successful. And then there's hardware and infrastructure. Those costs have been fluctuating over the years. Additional compute power here, maybe 50,000. This is a hypothetical annual cloud infrastructure cost. So there's 4 categories. We've got 2 more. Training and change management. Estimated cost 30,000. Some of you might need to be adding an extra 0 or 2 to these numbers to be realistic within your organization, within your scope. This is lower level stuff. But that's kind of where we are today. So I'm comfortable at sharing these as kind of actual numbers. Ongoing maintenance and human oversight, we'll surely get into that in the first year, because if the project takes 5 months, that leaves 7 months to maintain it. So total estimated cost for year 1, 150 plus 400, blah, 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 $850,000. So keep that in mind. That's what it's going to cost in year 1. So what do we get out of this? What do we get out of this? Well, we get labor cost savings, reduced call center volume. AI chatbots can handle a significant portion of routine inquiries, reducing the need for human agents. Zurich Insurance's chatbot Zara achieved an 80% resolution rate for policy inquiries. That was in the study, without human involvement, leading to saved labor. So a hypothetical scenario, taking what they said and backing it in, we've got an enterprise receives, let's say, 1 million customer inquiries annually. If the AI resolves 80% of these inquiries, and the average cost per human handled inquiry is $4, there's your estimated benefit, 3.2 million. That's how this is done, 3.2 million. But there's more, increased revenue from customer engagement and acquisition. And I had to stop myself and say, you mean to tell me that having a chatbot is going to increase your customer engagement and acquisition? Because I don't know, I'm kind of frustrated with these chatbots frequently. But what they're saying is that it's an improvement. It's an improvement over where they were, and they will get increased revenue through customer engagement and acquisition. So take that at face value. If the enterprise's annual income, if I'm going to peg it off annual income, 50 million, hypothetical, not provided to me, then the estimated benefits are 1 million. But there's more. Improved customer retention and satisfaction. You're retaining customers, not only engaging customers to do more with you, but retaining them and improving their satisfaction keeps them. So everything I just said applies here at the tune of 50,000. So if you're building out something similar, what are your three numbers for year one? What are you going to get backing up in labor cost savings, in increased revenue through customer engagement and acquisition, and through improved customer retention and satisfaction? I suggest in this case, in this theoretical example, you're going to get $4.25 million. What was our cost again? Anybody remember? 850,000. So what's the theoretical ROI here? Well, there's your formula, simple. 4.2 million minus 80 divided by 850 times 100%. That equals blah, 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 400%, which is what they said. So this is a way that they or anybody might come to a 400% ROI. Now, there are some important considerations and caveats to this. You must have a data foundation maturity so that you're not rebuilding your data just for this AI project. You must have great project management. Keep in mind it's an evolving AI landscape, and your costs may vary quite a bit. When agentic AI, I'll put it this way, when agentic AI achieves its vision for us, then the costs will come down substantially. And then there are plenty of non-quantifiable benefits that we didn't get into. So that was kind of heavy. There was a lot of numbers in there. I've been looking for a way to slip this into a deck. So I just finally said, I'm going to slip it in here because we've just gone through some heavy numbers. And there's your guy that's going to handle your complaints in the future. Wonderful. Okay. Now let's look at another example, fraud detection. We got the rhythm of this now, right? We know how this works. We calculate our costs, we calculate our returns, we put it in the formula, we get a number. So let's do fraud detection. This is like what JP Morgan Chase said they're doing. This is like what Intuit and Entrust said that they were doing. So this is going to net out to some numbers that are reasonable for this category. This is why I said in the title of this presentation, the ROI is usually there. If you do these things and do them well, these core things that AI does for your organization, the ROI is there. Now you have to do them well. You have to have that data foundation, et cetera, but it's usually going to be there. So AI platform and software licensing, $500K for that. Development and integration, $1.5K for that. I'm trying to use the same categories. Data prep and governance, $300,000. Hardware and infrastructure, $200,000. Training and change management, $100,000. And then ongoing for whatever's left in that year, $400,000. Now, I haven't shown you year 2, 3, 4, or actually 2 and 3. We're going to probably have to stop there. I haven't shown you year 2 and 3, but obviously a lot of these development costs are off the table and you go into a maintenance cycle. So what do we use for maintenance? Well, it depends. Depends if you're actually leaving a lot of development, which isn't maintenance, but if you're leaving a lot more work that costs, that needs to be done in those years, you got to factor that in, of course. But 20, 30% is not unheard of at all. But anyway, back to year one, total estimated cost, 3 million. Okay, what do you get out of fraud detection? The primary AI and fraud detection are direct financial savings from prevented losses and increased operational efficiency. Now, I love ROI like this because it's more or less direct. It's if you do this, you save this much fraud. And which number is bigger? Okay, so reduce financial losses from fraud. We're going to say, and let me read this because it's a little detailed and important. A large financial institution experiences 100 million in annual fraud losses. What's your fraud? Let's start there. With a robust AI system, it's hypothetically able to prevent 15% of these losses that might have gone undetected or unprevented by traditional methods. We're all doing fraud detection. Everybody out there that has fraud is doing fraud detection. Are they doing it well, though? And the question today is, are you using AI for that? Because AI can jack that prevention rate from wherever you are to 15% or more. And by the way, you're thinking, well, how will I know? How will I know it's 15%, not 25%, not 20%, 5%? It's kind of hard. It's hard. It's your best guess. It's not me as a technologist's best guess. It's somebody in the business's best guess. If we do this for them, what's it going to be? It's actually, I should say, it's both of us working together. But you can always do trials in small markets and extend from there. You could also look to industry statistics around things like this. And this 15% actually does come from some industry statistics about what you should be able to expect in terms of improvement. Now, increased operational efficiency and labor cost, $1 million for handling all that fraud that you don't have to do now, and improved identity verification and authentication. Obviously, my return categories are going to be different for each type of project. So these are not the same as the prior project with the chatbot, right? These are for fraud. And the estimated benefit here is 500,000. So in total, the total estimated quantifiable benefits for year one, 16.5 million. 16.5 million. Sign me up. What was the investment on that again? 3 million? Sign me up. I don't know an organization that, if they believe you, wouldn't do this. Because it's 450% return on investment in year one. That's good return on your money. But keep in mind some things that could cost you if you're not ready for it. Your data foundation, your project management, the evolving threat landscape. Fraud detection is not a one and done. We know this. You're going to have to continue to put effort into it, algorithms and so forth. Non-quantifiable benefits, there always are. I always like to list them. Some people want me to quantify that, but I want to draw the line. In these cases that I have showed you today, I have showed you that I draw the line at 3 things. I like to draw the line actually at around 1 or 2 things. If your project, your AI project, is not returning investment with 1 or 2 things, then you need to sharpen that pencil and figure out how to make it return its investment in 1 or 2 things. I showed you 3 here, okay, but 1 or 2 things, because the longer that you have to talk about where the returns are going to come from, well, you're going to get this, you're going to get this, you're going to get this, you have just lost that executive's attention span. So it's got to be 1 or 2 things. It's got to be 1 sentence where you can say where the returns are going to come from. Not a long, well, that's a conversation. No, it is a conversation, but it's the conversation. You're only granted the conversation if the sentence is good. All right. What else is there for this one? Non-quantifiable benefits. Yes. Human in the loop. Don't forget the human in the loop. Humans cost, and they are going to be in the loop for the foreseeable future. A human in the middle approach remains true for the foreseeable future in AI, especially for complex or nuanced fraud cases, to ensure accuracy, prevent false positives, and continuously improve the AI system performance. So in summary of today, ROI has become essential for getting AI projects justified. Workloads provide ROI. You have to be able to put the ring fence around workloads and contain the return and the investment. AI is transforming all of these industries. ROI concepts and measurement. ROI is calculated as return minus investment over a defined period. Must state the time period. It's no good without that time period. With your assumptions and your risks, and probably put on a probability distribution because, again, we can't predict the future precisely. I showed you two hypothetical examples. A hypothetical mid-sized enterprise investing $850,000 in AI-powered customer service can achieve $4.25 million in quantifiable benefits, yielding a 400% ROI. And then the fraud detection, which was 450% ROI. ROI is essential for justifying AI projects, with workloads providing measurable returns. Effective AI strategies and data readiness are crucial for realizing the financial and strategic benefits. And Mark, that brings me to the end of the formal part of the presentation. Did I leave any time for questions?
You sure did. We have 4 whole minutes for questions, and we've got some doozies. I did want to say I giggled when you were talking about executives not having the attention span to listen for more than a few seconds, because I was having that exact conversation with a friend of mine just yesterday, and so that made me giggle.
Yeah, button up
Um,
those conversations.
exactly. Be real. Communicate tightly.
Yeah.
Brevity is the soul of wit. We have a couple of fantastic questions, and I'm going to go out of order because one really catches my eye here. In your chatbot example, labor cost savings appear to represent the most significant opportunity. Could you elaborate on how an organization might realistically recognize these savings within year one? Specifically, would achieving this require, at minimum, organizational redesign, particularly within call center operations to enable cost release?
Yes, is the answer to that question. It's quite simply put, it's the handling of customer interactions with the chatbot as opposed to the human. We all know this is going on far and wide, for better, for worse. And yes, I love what was in that question: organizational redesign, redeployment of people to different roles. We are going to see an enormous movement of roles within organizations. Plenty of new roles coming as a result of AI. If I had more time, I would go into what those roles are. And plenty of jobs displaced as a result of AI. And probably nowhere is it simpler to point out than in the area that I did. And yes, there is substantial savings there as a possibility.
Well, I think we've got a quick question here. It was our most upvoted. I'm going to reword it a bit. So my apologies to the questioner. Uh, what do you think is the distinction between traditional AI and generative AI? And they really referenced like the confusion in non-tech circles that AI is always referring to like generative AI, chat GPT kind of things.
Yeah. Well, this is true. When I talk to non-techies, I guess, about AI, they think about ChatGPT, right? Um, and that's, of course, Gen AI. And that's not I don't think that's a bad way to start thinking about AI, but the reality is it's so much more. And a lot of us know this and are, and I just think that the realities are so far ahead of where most people are, if they don't even realize the enormous utility of something like a chat GPT, they're not even close to knowing what's going on. And this new world is going to hit them like a pan in the face. And that is a scary thought. And certainly we're not holding back the progress to bring people aboard. Like I always talk about organizational change management. I did today a little bit, and bringing people aboard with the project internally in the enterprise. But broadly speaking, people are just by and far and large are way behind the times and would not. Many people don't believe that there are things like self-driving cars. Cars can't drive themselves. Oh, you can't write an essay without a human. And I could go on and on. People just generally don't believe these things that are clearly a reality. And so the future is scary for that reason. They're just not going to be ready. And so I'm not so worried about the categorization of AI. Gen AI is obviously an AI category. It's an important one. There are others, but if we want to think about it, if somebody out there wants to think about AI as Gen AI, at least if they know what they're talking about, they're on the
Yeah.
path to understanding.
Yeah, at least they're coming to the party.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for this wonderful presentation, William. Everybody in chat's saying lots of thank yous. So great job. And thank you, chat, for being so electric and engaging as always. And have a wonderful day, everybody.